Hello everyone, and welcome back to Empanada Sessions. Today we're gonna profile probably my favorite deck um, in the current standard format. I've been testing this a bunch. It has great matchups across the board, and it's just a blast to play. And this deck is Buzzwole GX with Lycanroc and Zoroark. Now, Buzzwole by itself is a very strong card. Let's start with that. We played two Buzzwole GX. Let's go over each of its attacks because it really is a fantastic attacker. This is our main attacker for the deck. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There we go. We have for one fighting energy, Jet Punch does 30 damage. Plus it does 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. For three fighting energy, you're doing Knuckle Impact for 160, and it says this Pokemon cannot attack the following turn. Its GX attack, which we're rarely using, does 40 times. It's for 3 fighting energy as well, and it does 40 times the amount of prize cards you have left. So, not the greatest GX attack, but we're mostly using it for that Jet Punch attack to put 30 on the active and spread damage to the bench Pokemon. Sorry about that. Don't know why the camera is refocusing. Moving on, we play one Zygarde EX, and the reason for this is it's another 190 basic that can attack for 1 fighting energy, and it says if there's any stadium in play, this attack does 20 more damage. So for 1 fighting energy, you can do 40, which when it comes to our math is very important. So we'll get more into that later. Its other 2 attacks are alright. 60 for Cellstorm for fighting in a colorless. It heals 30 from itself, and 2 fighting in a colorless, 100 with Land's Wrath. So those are actually our main attackers in the deck, at least to start off the game. Following that, we run a 3/3 Lycanroc GX line. We run the corner Rockruff because stopping your opponent from retreating is really nice. If you're forced to attack with it, that's not a bad option. And then the Bloodthirsty Eyes Lycanroc. Its ability is basically Lysander. When you play it from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon, you choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and switch it with the active. For a fighting in a double colorless, you're doing Claw Slash for 110. And then its GX attack is Dangerous Rogue GX. 50 times the amount of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So that's really nice because if there's 5 on the bench, you can do 250 damage to stuff like Metagross or whatever you might need to one-hit. Gardevoir. A lot of those big 230, 250 beefy Pokemon. Let's see if we can get this camera to behave. Next up, we run a heavy 4-3-1 Zoroark line. We run the Shining Legend Zorua. We run 1 stand-in Zoroark with Mind Jack, which does 30 more times the amount of their bench Pokemon, and 3 Zoroark GX. So Zoroark GX, of course, has the trade ability, which lets you pitch a card to draw 2. And that's very important in this deck because we are digging for resources a lot to kind of to find our win condition, I guess. And then the 1 prize attacker in Zoroark lets us deal with the Safeguard Ninetales, along with having a 1 prize attacker to force a 7 prize game. And the stand-in ability can come up sometimes, so nice to have for that as well. Rounding out our Pokemon lineup, yeah, there are more. I know we're running a lot of Pokemon in this deck. We have 1 Espeon EX, because when we're spreading damage with Buzzwole and doing damage with Zoroark and Lycanroc, we're not necessarily knocking anything out, so Espeon ensures that we can lock in those knockouts even after those Pokemon have evolved. And then 2 Tapu Lele. This deck actually could use 3 Lele, but you're not. Oh, let's see. Little shiny there. That's better. Nope. There we go. Two Tapu Lele. Um. So yeah, first turn we're usually gonna either Lele for Bridget or hopefully open Bridget, and we're getting usually a Zorua and or two Zorua and Rockruff if we have a Buzzwole active, or if we have one of these guys active, which we are running 7 of these as opposed to only 3 of these. Um, we we're probably gonna grab a Buzzwole and then like one of each of these. So sorry. To help with that, to help with the problem of not having enough bench space and then like starting the wrong Pokemon, we're running 4 Floatstone, so we ensure that whatever we want to have in the active is always active, and 3 Fighting Fury Belt to make our basics a lot beefier and do the perfect numbers. So yeah, because of the lack of bench space, we can't really play the 3 Leles, and we play the extra Floatstones and Fury Belts to help us kind of meet our win condition a little easier. We'll get into the win condition a little more, but more or less you're just destroying your opponent before they can set up. This deck is so quick and so aggressive. Once you've started attacking over the first couple turns, most decks are lucky if they can even get set up. It's really, really nice. It's really aggressive. We're playing 3 Field Blower because we do need our abilities in this deck, and getting rid of Garbotoxin's tool is a problem. So, to use our trade, to use our Bloodthirsty Eyes, we want to have access to 3 Field Blowers for that purpose. We run 2 Rescue Stretcher, which is important because Rescue Stretcher kind of turns into a VS Seeker in this deck. Because if we throw away one of these Lycanrocs early and we have a Rockruff on the bench, Sycamoring into Rescue Stretcher means we can just like grab this guy back, evolve, and there's our Lysander for the turn. And then rounding out, is that the last of the items? Yeah, rounding out our items, we run 4 Ultra Ball. So, interesting thing about this deck, we're not running any Choice Band. The reason for that is that we need the Fury Belt to hit our numbers, and once we've started attacking with a Fury Belted Buzzwole, we don't really need the Choice Band in the late game to lock in KOs. So it's weird considering how heavily GX favored our format is, but we don't need Choice Band in this deck. Fury Belt is the much more aggressive option and the much stronger option for us. Our supporter lineup for Professor Sycamore, because we need to dig for things. We're running heavy lines of everything, so throwing things away doesn't hurt us that much. We run 3N because we run the 1 Lusamine to grab it back in the late game if we need to end our opponent down. Not much more to say about that. Lusamine's pretty good. I expect to see it at least as a 1-of in most decks now. 1 Mallow because we're running the Zoroark GX with trade. So that Mallow lets us get to any 2 cards in our deck. And 1 each of Bridget and Guzma. Now this deck really needs a first turn Bridget, so I could consider cutting the Mallow for a second Bridget, just in case we prize it. We're running 2 Brooklet Hill, mostly because we do need like a full bench first turn. Not only to do damage with Zoroark's GX's Riotous Beating rather, but because even after a Bridget, we need to get another Rockruff out. Because for example, if we have a Rockruff active and then we Bridget, we're gonna Bridget for 2 Zorua and a Buzzwole, and we're hopefully going to Floatstone the Rockruff and go into the Buzzwole. But even after we've done that, we need the Brooklet Hill to grab another Rockruff, because we want to not only use a Lycanroc in the first couple turns, but be able to threaten another Lycanroc in the turns following that. So having access to multiple Rockruff on your bench in the first turn with Brooklet Hill is very, very helpful. And rounding things out for our energy, we have 4 strong energy, 3 fighting energy, and 4 DCEs. I have been considering just cutting DCE altogether and just going with maybe like 4 strong energy, 5 fighting energy or something, and opening up more space in the deck. But being able to get off attacks with Lycanroc and then being able to use these guys as attackers, it really makes the DCE worthwhile. So while you could consider like running the fighting energy variant, I think the DCs are much stronger in here. As far as meta matchups go, you're running the Zygarde because alright, so let's discuss our game plan as far as most meta matchups. Against stage 2 decks and a lot of stage 1s, you have Buzzwole putting pressure on the first couple turns while they're still grabbing their pieces with a let me clear all this out of the way and we'll actually have a deck discussion, because this is a deck that the playstyle really does make the deck. So if you're not playing this deck as aggressively as it should be played, it might not feel as strong as you want it to. And because of that, I'm gonna go over how we want to kind of play our first couple of turns of the game out. I actually have tested this against Gardevoir, Greninja, Metagross, like a lot of strong meta decks, and it's just been phenomenal against all of them. So here we go. First turn, ideally, against most decks, you're going for this combo right here. Where's our Fury? So when you have a Jet Punch with a strong energy and a Fury Belt, you're hitting 60. And that's why we're not running the choice band, because you need that 10 extra to hit the 60. And I mean, you hit EV for weakness, but every other 60 HP basic, like Ralts, like Beldum, like what's it called? I can't even think right now. But yeah, you're hitting all those 60 HP basics and putting 30 on their bench counterparts. So say your opponent's going for a first turn Bridget and grabs like a Remoraid and 2 Ralts, and they have an active Ralt. You can go 60 damage on your Ralts and 30 on your benched Ralts. And then the following turn, because you had one of these guys down, one of your Rockruffs down, you bring out one of their other Ralts, or you bring out something that got turned into Curlia, and you attach another strong energy. That's another cool thing that you can do, is like, you might not want to commit a lot of energies, especially against Guardy, but if you need to take down a stage 1 in the line, you can just commit that extra strong energy, and that's another 20 damage, so you're hitting 80. So you bring out whatever they're trying to set up. You bring out the Metang, you bring out the Curlia. Although Metang, I don't think you're going to hit with this. You're going to do 70, 80. So yeah, but against Gardevoir, you can attach the second strong energy and actually do enough damage to take that out, plus put the 30 on the Ralt you've already damaged, so you're taking 2 knockouts. So at best right now, they've got one Pokemon that they're setting up, and while you're attacking like this, all you got to do is set up one Lycanroc with either a fighting or a strong energy, and find a DCE at some point, or another fighting energy, and the Dangerous Road GX is going to take out anything, because this Buzzwole has softened it up. So between these two, you're already so aggressive and so strong. And you see, like, because you need to be getting so aggressive in the early turns, being able to use, like, say, a Professor Sycamore to draw cards and then use a Lycanroc to essentially Lysander their stuff out, like, that is the strength of the deck, is its aggression. So, what's it called? So on top of that, now by turn 2, by turn 3, if you're not finding your pieces, you could really just stagnate and not hit your game plan. But that's where your Zoroarks come in, because if you can find 1 or 2 Zoroarks, and we're playing 3, so like finding the 2 Zoroarks isn't completely unreasonable. If you can find 2 Zoroarks, you're getting 4 new cards every turn. You're most likely just outspeeding your opponent to victory. The game has slowed down a lot, and to be able to be this aggressive without having to use that many items, this is one of the strongest decks in the current format, I believe, and could be very strong going forward, especially since every deck's starting to play Zoroark, and Zoroark has a fighting weakness. So a regular attack, the Claw Slash from Lycanroc, can take out Zoroark. Not to mention Drampas are weak to fighting as well. So against decks that don't run 60 HP basics, like let's say Vikavolt has a 70 HP Grubbin, you have the Zygarde. And Zygarde, you're gonna need a Brooklet Hill to get this combo off, but you can do 40 plus 20 plus 10. So you're doing 70 damage with this guy. You're not spreading with him, so he's not as strong, but you can start getting aggressive early with him as well. He's also great because while Buzzwole is weak to Psychic, he's weak to Grass. So we actually have 3 different weaknesses in this deck. We have Grass, Psychic, and Fighting. So we can kind of play around whatever our opponent's trying to do. What are some other pointers about this deck? You will kind of struggle against the beefier decks, like Lapras decks, Volcanion decks. I haven't tested as much against those, but as long as you're able to 2-shot and rotate attackers between these guys and these guys, like if you can have a full field and 2 Zoroarks, you can do 120 with a Floatstone Zoroark, float the guy out, and do another 120 with the next Floatstone Zoroark, or 150 with a Choice Banded Zoroark. But against those decks, it essentially becomes a 2-shot war. Having the strong energy does help a little bit, because then you can hit better numbers with the GX attack early game. But if I had to pick one weakness for this deck, it definitely is those like beefy basic decks, the like beefy basic GX decks or basic EXs. So, but nobody's really playing Waterbox as much. Fire has fallen out of favor in recent placements. Like I've been seeing Ninetales Zoroark everywhere, and Ninetales Zoroark has a horrible matchup against this, because while you can't 2-shot them, you can devolve them and put the perfect amount. Like even against a Ninetales, with this, you put 60 on their Ninetales, you can just devolve them with Espeon and take the knockout. And if you can put 60 on 3 different Ninetales and devolve them all with Espeon, they're out of Vulpixes. What are they gonna do? They gotta rescue structure them all back in and find them all? It's not gonna work. So I think like as people start to test this deck, they're gonna realize Buzzwole with, I don't know about if the heavy Zoroark line will necessarily be the norm. It might just go down to 2/2 Zoroark line and a heavier Lycanroc Buzzwole line, but the Espeon EX with the Lycanroc and the Buzzwole, that's gonna be something you guys should expect to see in the meta for a long time to come. And as you can see, it can be pretty darn deadly. I think that's about it. Yeah, we went over just about everything in the deck. We can't use Zoroark's Trickster GX, obviously. We cannot use Tapu Lele's GX attack. So our two GX attack options are Absorption and Dangerous Rogue. I would usually opt for the Dangerous Rogue. Lusamine can actually be super helpful because playing only one Mallow and one Guzma is not ideal, but we have a built-in Guzma and Lycanroc, and being able to Lusamine these two back into our hand, even if they get end back into our deck, just having access to these multiple times a game is super strong. Especially like Mallow with Zoroark, you're basically finding the two cards you need to lock up a KO. So if you can do that twice in a game, you're getting, and then like you get to Dangerous Rogue for a third KO. You're probably taking the game right there. I don't see the fighting weakness being a concern, even though Garbodor is such an issue, just because we get aggressive early, and we don't need our items to do so. Even if they manage to Field Blower our Fury Belts and our Float Stones, at most they're gonna get like 4 or 5 items, and I think they need 5 items. Yeah, they would need 5 items to take out a Buzzwole without a Fury Belt. So just going into the Garbodor matchup, if you know that if you know you're up against Trashalanche, just be careful about playing your items. Maybe 1 Fury Belt, 1 Float Stone, and 1 Ultra Ball should be like all you want to really play. But you can get aggressive against them. You can use the Zygarde to one-hit their Trubbishes with Lens Pulse. You can use your Psychic Resistant Zoroarks, and the Zoroark GX and the Breakthrough Zoroark are both fighting resistant, so those help in that matchup. But against the strongest decks, against the Lowland Ninetales with Zoroark, and against Gardevoir, and against Metagross, against most of the meta, this is a very strong option, and I see it being a very strong option going forward. I'll stop talking your ears off. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'll probably update this deck within the next couple weeks, so stay tuned. This has been Nasif from Empanadas Sessions, signing off.